So let's talk about the BTC inflows and what's going on this week. It's down.
Yes, things have changed dramatically. This entire week has been down. Not high numbers of down. I mean, millions of dollars, yeah, but not like the inflows have been. We're still averaging relatively high because we've had 2 months of high numbers,
Hmm.
but the entire week has been outflow.
Okay.
This is kind of an indicator that maybe the rush to get into the spot ETFs is slowing, at least for the current wave of investors. And Grayscale continues to bleed. So if you look a little bit into the numbers, Grayscale is bleeding, 300-400 million dollars a day, and they're kind of erasing the part where other people are investing in spot ETFs that are not Grayscale.
And they're the biggest ETF right now. People are just getting out of that one.
Well, they were early and they were the first mover. They were a futures ETF and then they
Right.
got converted. And so there was maybe $40 billion in them. And
Hmm.
now they're down in the 20s and they continue to fall.
And their fees, they lowered their fees, but people are still exiting.
They lowered their fees, but their fees are still higher than zero. And
Right.
there's some offering zero. So the fact
Okay.
that some people are offering zero means I don't pay any fees.
Hmm.
I may want to move.
And we
And
saw it early on. People were leaving there and jumping into onto the inflows into what we were seeing on.
it was pretty clear when you look at the earlier numbers that the people that are moving are not really moving out
Right.
of Bitcoin. They're just moving out of a higher cost structure.
Hmm.
So the fee structure was higher, and that pushed them to say, well, I don't pay as much if I go to this guy. I'll go to this guy and hold his instead. And since ETFs are really easily traded on the open floor in a day, they just dump that one, go buy this one.
Right.
And it's real quick, it's real simple. And
Right.
that's why millions of dollars can trade like that really quickly.
Wonder if the Fed meeting this week has something to do with the lack of inflows.
I think, anytime you have government interest, whether it's rate changes or numbers about consumer pricing, any of this kind of stuff,
Hmm.
it does have an effect on traditional markets and it does have an effect on crypto
Yep.
markets.
Yep.
So I'm sure that any of those kind of news events which cause people to be more cautious or want to have more liquid cash that they go spend or
Right.
hide under their mattress or whatever they do, will reduce, investment or maybe they're taking out, right? This happens too, but they're generally not sustained based on those kinds of numbers. It's generally sustained because those numbers continue from statement to statement, month to month,
Hmm.
whatever. And there's a trend like they're raising an interest rate only a quarter of a percent, but they do it 5 times in a row. Well, that's 1.25%. That's significant,
Right.
right? But any one individual event, a lot of people are like thinking that's going to be a really big deal, and it isn't necessarily that big of a deal if it's not a sustained number, right? It's not a sustained change.
Do you think that this week or the last week and a half, there's been some talk about the SEC going after Ethereum as a security? Do you think some of that could be keeping people out of the crypto market?
I'm sure that that's FUD that keeps people that are less knowledgeable out. But if you look closely at that kind of news, that really is FUD.
Hmm.
That really is people making something up and trying to make it into more than it really is.
And that might have more to do, obviously, with the upcoming ETH ETF and that play.
It's unclear if people are playing games to try
Yes.
and talk down about
Right.
an asset that they want to collect.
So keeping the price down by talking bad about it, sharing
Sure.
people out of it.
Or not talking about it, right?
Right.
If I'm not out there telling you I'm going for this and I'm gonna make this ETF and this is gonna do well and I believe in it and I'm buying it, well, it might go up a lot before my ETF is open and that might not be good for me. So maybe I just keep my mouth shut and somebody else is talking bad about it and I just don't respond. I don't show any interest and I keep acquiring for my
Hmm.
own personal interest or for the
Right.
future of my ETF. I'm not sure how early they can acquire ahead of an approval, but I could see where if you had the money in place and you saw that there was a benefit to be had,
Hmm.
there would, there'd be a temptation to buy in and ride the up wave before you actually had permission.
This will show though my lack of knowledge on this topic. If ETH did get declared a security, couldn't it still be trade? Couldn't we still work with it?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so it's
Absolutely.
not a death blow to ETH. If in fact, if they did label as a security, would that give it more legitimacy?
Well, it would cause a lot of lawsuits
Okay.
because there are people who in the government who are saying it's not a security.
Both sides. There's people saying both, right? Within the government.
within the government. Yeah. So, like the SEC hasn't technically said it's a security,
Right.
but if they were to say it's a security, the CFTC is saying no, it's a commodity.
And they're fighting over a turf war over who wants to control this. Aren't they?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It's a turf war.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a government organization turf war.
So if the SEC won and did declare the security, that wouldn't it be the end of Ethereum
Well, like I said, what would happen would be lawsuits. Okay.
from all the developers and
There would be lawsuits from people who would think that now because they lost money and they invested early, maybe they can sue developers or somebody involved in
okay.
how they got it. There
Right.
could be lawsuits to say, no, I don't believe it's a security and I want you to take that back. There could be a turf war lawsuit saying it is, it isn't, and then there's a fight about it is and it isn't. That doesn't provide the regulatory clarity that people want in order to invest.
The XRP lawsuit, they finally won that and they weren't the security.
They did win, and it caused a big boost in the price of Ripple,
Right.
but it didn't necessarily change their overall business. Remember, it was only the U.S. that was having the problem, and the rest of the world was happy with it.
Right.
So they kind of just did their business in the rest of the world and fought hard for crypto.
Right. Does that create a roadmap for ETH in the court case for them
So
to also do the same path
there have been essentially nothing but wins since then. So
by the crypto community
the
against
crypto
the SEC?
community, the crypto community is pounding the government.
Right. And winning in
And
court.
they're winning in court.
Okay.
The government is trying to say out of one side of its mouth to one crypto and out of the other side of its mouth to another crypto, and the judge is saying, well, you can't treat them different,
Right.
or this is not your job to legislate from.
Okay.
You don't have this authority, and so this is really good because it provides case law for people like Coinbase who have the money and have the lawyers to go at them and say, no, what you're saying is wrong and what you're doing is wrong.